A classic, a cinema classic. Anyway, Congress passes a bill on New Year's Eve to avoid the fiscal cliff that the ladies just drove over. How will this affect your tax bill? I'm Allen Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me on set, Terry Jones, Associate Editor of Investors Business Daily, and Rituparna Basu, Research Associate with the Ayn Rand Institute for Individual Rights. All right, guys, a deal to avoid the fiscal cliff. It was passed. It was passed. Surprise, surprise. On New Year's Eve, signed by the president, or at least by his auto pen in Hawaii. Late this week. All right, so Terry, help break this down. What did they actually do, other than avoid the fiscal cliff? Because you know they didn't avoid any fiscal cliff. There's no way they did anything actually effective about anything. No. So what did they actually do?
Well, I can tell you one thing they didn't do. They did not cut spending. That is one thing they didn't do. And in fact, and this has been publicized, they basically had $41 in tax hikes for every $1 in supposed spending
that they're going to talk about later, right?
Yeah,
it's not even in the bill.
You got to remember that these are not cuts that have been made. These are cuts that they're considering making.
And the president has already said, and to get those cuts, you're going to have to raise taxes.
You're going to have to raise taxes
like beyond the taxes that we just raised.
So, I mean, it really, and what it did was it put higher taxes on things like capital gains, which means there will be relatively less investment. This is there's a clear correlation between
capital. Good thing Al Gore sold his network to Al Jazeera before.
And that's what he did.
Just
before.
Got to get a good rate on that $100 million profit he got off of Al Jazeera.
You want the 15% rate, not the 23.8% rate that goes into effect on his income class next year.
Oh boy. Okay, Ritu, let's take a look at the president addressing the nation about the bill passed.
Tonight's agreement further reduces the deficit by raising $620 billion in revenue from the wealthiest households in America. And there will be more deficit reduction as Congress decides what to do about the automatic spending cuts that we have now delayed for 2 months.
Once Congress decides, those guys over there about the spending cuts, what they left out of that clip is that immediately, like, comma, then, but we still need to invest. We need to make sure that we invest in whatever he says, roads and bridges, right? You always got to invest in roads and bridges.
Roads, bridges, and schools.
Investing in roads, bridges, and schools will get us everywhere we want to go. Okay, Ritu, I want to get your thoughts on this whole mess.
Well, listen, if he was actually serious about tackling the deficit, right, you'd have to, like Terry said, you'd have to deal with the spending issue. And no one is willing to deal with the spending issue. Not one cut. In many ways, there are spending increases. I mean, there's not one cut. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the biggest drivers of government debt long term, none of that was touched. And they don't want to touch it, like you're saying. Obama says no spending cuts. If there's spending cuts, we're going to increase the taxes. With that kind of attitude, there's no meaningful dent in the deficit.
Yeah, Terry, let's take a look at it because the president also did speak about spending. Here it is. Let's take a look.
And I believe that there's further unnecessary spending in government that we can eliminate. But we can't simply cut our way to prosperity. Cutting spending has to go hand in hand with further reforms to our tax code so that the wealthiest corporations and individuals can't take advantage of loopholes and deductions that aren't available to most Americans.
Bang-o. So basically, he just put onto the table, again, Romney's plan, and the original plan right after the election, which was, why don't we get some of the deductions? Let's keep the rates where they are, get the deductions, you'll get your same revenue. He forced the rate increase to obliterate the Republican Party in the House, which he did pretty successfully. And now he's putting back on the table, and we're going to eliminate deductions if you want any more cuts in spending.
Yes. That's exactly what he's doing. And here's the brilliance of it. I mean, all last year, he talked on the stump. He said, I have a plan, a balanced and fair plan, that will cut $2.50 of spending for each $1 in new taxes raised. Well, the actual ratio reversed is $41, as I said, in new spending and $1 in supposed spending cuts. Over the next 10 years, spending is, we spent around $27 trillion government-wide over the last 10 years. Over the next 10 years, they will spend about $47 trillion. That is around 80% increase.
And they will go through hell to negotiate that it will actually be $46 trillion.
Yeah.
And that will be a $1 trillion spending cut that they passed.
And,
and look at that. That's amazing.
You're only going to have $37 trillion in revenue. So when he talks about $600 billion making a cut in the deficit, that's a joke. It's nothing.
Yeah. So, but why can't we spend our way to growth, Rituparna? I mean, this is the whole idea, you know, that government spending promotes demand and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Keynesian idea, and it's failed. I mean, history has shown that. You need freedom. You need people to be able to actually producing things, and to produce products, you need your money. You need everything you're earning. You have to put that back into your business. I mean, you can't just have it confiscated then expect to see economic growth.
Terry, the politics of this was interesting because, as I mentioned, a very clever move by Obama to make sure it was about a rate increase, knowing that the House would go nuclear on a rate increase. Yeah. And sure enough, they did. The whole thing, I mean, the House is in a shambles. Boehner, as we're recording this, was just reelected. So, but what do you think of the state of the Republican opposition to, the theoretical Republican opposition to increased spending? Well, what's the state of that?
If you think of this as not just the fiscal cliff, but as a basketball game, they're losing the first half pretty badly. Now they go in the second half. Within 2 months, they have to come back with a plan to raise the debt ceiling. It's now at $6.394 trillion. We've just gone past that. So they're going to have to come back with a plan to raise the debt ceiling. Republicans should now dig in their heels and demand spending cuts. Why? Because Obama won the debate. He got the increase in taxes on the rich that he so desperately sought last year. He got that, and now Republicans have to say, okay, you got what you wanted. Now you have to do what you promised to do, which is cut spending.
But he's going to say, I didn't get what I wanted. If you wanted what you wanted, then the rates go down to the $250,000. That's why I thought, in a way, like November 7, November 8, they just say, like, you got it.
Yeah.
Now, between now and the end of the year, let's talk about spending cuts. Yeah. Just give them everything, right? Just so that they had sort of no
wiggle room.
Just give it to them and say, hey, that's the cost of this, having lost this election, is those taxes are going to go up. Now, day one, what are the spending cuts, and have been the debate?
They still have the high ground, though, because polls show that people want spending cuts.
Yeah. I know politics isn't your game, but what do you have to say about this?
Well, if you just look at the track record, I mean, Republicans are now saying they want spending cuts, but just look at their track record over the last 10 years. You know, you had the Medicare Part D expansion. Who was that under? Republican administration. You had the bailouts. You have all sorts of things like that. I mean, and now they're saying they want spending cuts. Are they really that serious about it? I mean, they're the ones expanding Medicare more than anyone has ever done before, and now they're saying we want to cut it back a little bit. There's no track record. I don't think they're really that serious, because they agree with these programs. They love these programs.
What do you think? I mean, do you think they've truly found religion with the rise of the Tea Party, which is now already almost 4 years old?
I think
but you know, you saw the head guy under Boehner saying, "Oh, these chuckleheads over in the House have ruined everything that's going on over here. You know, these principled people, you know, they're intransigent, they're recalcitrant, you know, they're just banging their heads against the Tea Party influence to say, like, hey, this has got to stop. Do you think they found some sense of religion about it, or
no? But I'm very grateful. Rituparna's right. I mean, these are Tweedledum and Tweedledee parties. One is for much bigger government, and one is for somewhat bigger government. But they're both for bigger government. Why? Because that's their business, and they want to see revenues increase. Americans need to understand this and wake up. We need to we need to make big cuts in government, shrink its size and scope in our lives, and that's not going to get done doing standard politics, these kinds of negotiations and things, because Republicans always get rolled. Why do they get rolled? Because in their heart of hearts, maybe they want to. They want to spend more, just not as much as the Democrats, but they want to spend more. So something has to be done, and that's where the Tea Party comes in, because the Tea Party is holding their feet to the fire, and they're the only ones who are forcing them to have a reckoning with their conscience over this.
I think what has to happen, unfortunately, is that we need some really good Senate candidates. How many are up in 2014? A lot, right?
Yes.
A lot of Democratic seats are up.
Yeah, I don't know how many, but it's
I mean, it's really hard to knock off incumbents, but we need the Senate, because otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. For Terry and Ritu, I'm Allen Barton. You've been watching Front Page.